Happy Monday, everybody. This is Monday Night Baseball. No, don't even think I'm Howard Cosell. I hate the guy anyway, so don't rest in peace, whatever's left of you, Coach. I liked O.J. Simpson's interview that I had with you many years ago instead of the one you didn't want to give me. Guess what? You're dead and I'm alive and well, brother. So we'll leave it at that from the man who had a rug on top of his head and pretended he was pretty good at what he did. Howard Cosell, did I ever think I mentioned him? No. But this is Monday Night Baseball. A lot of football out there. We don't care. We're baseball, and we're going to get right to it. Let me talk about the crew here. And we have a busy show we want to get to. And believe me, it is loaded. Rob Maraska, welcome back to the big show.
Thanks. Good to be back, Scott.
Good to have you. Candy, as always.
Great to be here. Great to see the playoffs starting.
Absolutely. Eric?
Good to be back, Scott. I'm just happy my two pals, Rob and Mickey, could actually be here today, despite the tragic events of Sunday.
Yeah, I kind of had a feeling you did. Okay, all right. Skip is, you don't see him tonight. He's driving, but you can hear a lot of his audio when he goes out there and finds a spot where it's safe. We're okay with that, too. But Skip, glad to have you back on, my buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Scott.
Oh, you're very welcome. Oh, we love having you, Skip. Mark my word. Eddie Prather was awesome and professing to people. He's going to contribute some in the chat room. And last but not least, George Eichhorn, who has more lives than Morris. Okay, go ahead, George.
Hi. Good to be back. Good to be back.
All right, great stuff. All right, well, let's get to it. Busy agenda. And then we'll go out there and talk about what lies ahead because there is a lot of it. Okay. The schedule for the wild card round over the next 3 days. We'll give you the set of times, and then on Wednesday and Thursday, they'll be duplicated. Then we're going to talk about the odd. On Tuesday, you can catch the wild card. The Tigers with the Guardians will be at 1:08 p.m. Obviously, it'll be hosted in Cleveland, and that will be on ESPN. So if you want to find out, text me. Let me tell you something, people. I will be watching the Tigers with the Guardians, a series that should have been in Detroit at Comerica Park, but don't let me get started. Those Tigers they wanted to play in the Great Lakes. It just wasn't going to be on the Detroit side of it. Continuing the theme here, the Padres and the Cubs. This is a pretty good, interesting series. Will be on ABC at 3:08 Eastern Time. Red Sox and the Yankees, and of course that'll be on ABC. So Padres Cubs ABC 3:08 Eastern Time. Red Sox Yankees 6:08 p.m. ESPN, and the Reds and the Dodgers. Some interesting matchups of the past. And these times also apply to Wednesday and Thursday, same time. Question is, now what I do think is, I have a feeling they could change on Thursday if certain teams are knocked out. So I wouldn't be surprised if that is subject to change, but at least for Tuesday and Wednesday, after we have some intriguing matchups. We have obviously the Padres and the Cubs. I remember back in '84 when a lot of us in Detroit were hoping that the Cubs and Tigers would face off, but the Tigers got the Padres. And many, many years ago, we ended up seeing the Reds and the Dodgers were frequent playoff rivals, but that didn't take place. So, with that particular said, we'll talk about the times. Rob, what are your thoughts about the times?
The time, well, the Yankees Red Sox aren't really in prime time because I guess the Dodger game in LA. So it's kind of I would have thought that the Yankees Red Sox would be in prime time because that's going to be the big one, really. That's going to be the big series. But times are all right. I'm going to be watching the games. Doesn't matter what time they're on.
Andy?
They got to play. Baseball is so long, and these series take so long that they've got to try and get them all in a day, so to be able to have them on, back to back to back, so everybody can watch all of them, as opposed to putting them on at the same time. I get it, and they've got to pick which ones they think are going to draw. Plus, it depends on where they're playing them. Like, obviously, when they're playing LA Dodgers, that's out on the West Coast. They're not going to play that as the 1:00 game, so it makes sense. Just looking forward to seeing some of these matchups.
Eric?
I mean, you have what they go by with in terms of determining these matchups is the star power. I mean, there's quite a bit of star power in LA with Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, and Blake Snell, all those stars out there. So, and then also even on the Red side with Ellie De La Cruz. And plus, sometimes it comes down to, the Western time zone, but you got to account for that for with it being 3 hours behind the Eastern time zone. So that's going to be like a 9 o'clock start time, which would be over there a 7-ish start time. So you're kind of battling the time zone difference. As far as the Yankees Red Sox are concerned, I mean, there is star power, but it's not like it's not nearly what it used to be, where back in the day it was Pedro, David Ortiz, Alex Rodriguez, Derek Jeter, Mariano Rivera, and the like. So, they got stars, but it's not nearly what it used to be. And then the 1 o'clock p.m. game between the Tigers and the Guardians, I'm not surprised they put that out there because in Cleveland, aside from Jose Ramirez, who else do you have? And then Detroit, yeah, I like Riley Green though, but they were lucky they got very lucky that they didn't miss the playoffs. I mean, you could probably, had they missed the playoff, their collapse would have been more embarrassing than the New York Mets this past weekend.
Excellent point, Eric. Skip.
Yeah, they're just trying to get as many viewers as they can. They're not really honing in on one game or the other. They're just trying to make sure they can make these East Coast and West Coast times work and try to get as much TV viewers overall as they can. So, that's the one downside to having all these wild card teams get in. You have to kind of, lose some of the better teams during time, but I love the fact that we get more teams in the playoffs and have longer playoffs because of it.
George?
Yeah, I'm not surprised by these times. Detroit and Cleveland, probably the least attractive, so that's why they made that early. San Diego at the Cubs, 3:08, that sounds about right. At Central Time, it would be 2:08 in Chicago. The Yankees in Boston, oh, come on, 6:08. Technically, I know it's not prime time, but it is going to go into prime time.
Yep.
And then, of course, Cincinnati and LA, they started that one as late as they possibly could, at 9:08. And in defense of the league, I mean, let's face it. I mean, they didn't think the Yankees probably or the Dodgers were going to be in this first round. Most people had them, of course, coasting to the division, winning. But the fact of the matter is now this is a strong way for ABC and ESPN because we know they're going out. So I think the times are about the best they could do with it, Scott. They did the best they could.
Yeah, excellent point, George. You say ABC and ESPN are going out. That's a good point. People shouldn't underestimate that. I'll give you my quick take on this. Number one, Riley Green unfortunately hit a club you don't want to hit, the 200 strikeout club. For all the power numbers he hit, he ended up hitting. He had 200 strikeouts. Hopefully, he cut that down a little bit next year. Hello, Eddie Prather. Once again, great job early on. So you have Riley Green, of course, Terrence Skubal as well. We're going to find out how much he's really going to be worth that big contract that he's expecting to pay to get later on down the road. If Terrence's looking to make a good case for it, then I would, if I were him, I would definitely make sure you have some strong postseason performance. Because now the Tigers, who should have won the division title, didn't. But again, I'll go back to what Eric said, and that being missed. Okay, at least the Tigers got in the playoffs, and it staves off any more embarrassment. And we'll leave it at that. All right. So with that said, let's transition over to the odds for the World Series. Phillies going at plus 425. The Mariners plus 450. The Dodgers plus 500. The Blue Jays plus 750. The Brewers plus 750. The Yankees plus 800. The Padres plus 1400. Cubs plus 1400. The Tigers plus 1800. The Red Sox plus 2200. Guardians plus 3,000. And the Reds plus 3,500. I'm going to Rob here, okay? Went on your show with Savino and you.
Yes.
Didn't I tell you, Rob, that I thought Seattle was going to be dangerous? Are you drinking my Kool-Aid now, Rob?
Yeah, you did say that. That's right. I remember that. And I also remember Savino said it would be Seattle and Mets in the World Series.
Well, he said that. I also stuck it to Savino, and I called him out on that show about the Blue Jays. And I'll tell you one thing to Anthony Savino's credit. He sat there and took it like a man, or like a Savino man is what he did. And he became a believer in the Toronto Blue Jays, who, by the way, did win their first division title in ages. I'll get to that next week. Just wanted to touch that out. So, with that said, let's just talk about the odds real quick, Rob. We'll move it along. Are these
Well, the
decent
odds,
odds? Are they fair?
yeah, they're fair. And the funny thing is, before every baseball season, with a bunch of my friends, we kid around and we put uh, small bets on DraftKings for the long shots. And this year, I picked the Reds. So we know the Reds aren't going to win the World Series, but I just think it's funny that out of the long shot pool that we did, I took the Reds.
I don't think that's so bad, Skip. Do you? Because Terry Francona's at the helm. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't count him out, Rob. You might be a
You're
little
right.
richer after this World Series this year.
You're right, Nick. You're definitely right. He's dangerous, and right now, as far as I'm concerned, he's the best manager in the postseason right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Skip, which one of these do you like the best?
You can't ever argue with the odds, right? They put so much research into those and use so many metrics and things like that the odds are going to be what the odds are. If I had to bet on a team, I would pick the Yankees. I think that for them going into the playoffs, this has been an ideal season. I know everybody was kind of upset, that, they were on the bubble at some point, but the way they finished the season, I would be picking the Yankees to win the World Series at this point. They're on a high. They're rolling in there, playing really good baseball, and they would be my choice to win it all.
Okay, fair enough. George?
Well, yeah, I think the odds are. Seattle, in my eyes, really moved up. Okay, and the fact that they're now near the top of the heap, with as far as the betting favorite goes, is quite remarkable. What a great achievements for them so far. But again, just because they got high odds doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win their series. I mean, you got to obviously play the game, as the saying goes, to win. Detroit's odds, of course, sank low. I mean, Cleveland's odds are going to be low, and Cincinnati. Three of those Midwest teams are going to be on the lower end of things. I'm still going with the Phillies. I know the Phillies obviously had a lot of pressure on them the last several years, but they have made great strides this year. And I know Skip said the Yankees, but I think it'll be one of those two, either Philly or the Yankees. But I think the odds are pretty much as I expected, Scott. It's just Seattle is kind of the sleeper there, man, way up high.
Excellent points, George. Excellent points all the way around. Thank you. Okay, Eric.
Well, the Yankees to end the year, they banged out 8 wins in a row to end the season, and that's really good. I don't care, who they were playing, whatever. You still got to play those games, and you're playing every single day. So I don't want to hear about they had it easy down the stretch, because mind you, before they went down to this, they went through the gauntlet by going 7-5 against teams like the Astros when they were contending at the time, and also the Red Sox, and I think also the Mariners as well. So it wasn't easy. But they're really hot right now. They're riding a wave. They gave Toronto a run for their money and actually made them use Kevin Gausman, which is something that I know the Blue Jays didn't want to do, and they would have rather saved him for the postseason. But now an already thin pitching staff is that they're gonna have to figure something out there. However, I think guys we're really underestimating Cleveland here, because here's why. This team, we all thought they were dead in July, especially right after the trade deadline and Emmanuel Clase getting suspended. Who can blame him? But however, Stephen Vogt, he kept that team together. That's not easy. And next thing you know, boom, they made Detroit's what seemed like an insurmountable 15.5 game lead evaporate with the snap of a finger, and they ended up taking the American League Central Division. I think we're underestimating, just what this team could do. Yeah, on paper it's not, they're kind of mediocre at best, but keep in mind though, they just took the division and overcame a lead. We said this about the Diamondbacks a couple years ago when they went to the World Series. So I wouldn't count out Cleveland.
Excellent point. Candy?
I'm not going to count on anybody because to get here to win, to get as many wins as they have, there's a reason why they're all in the playoffs. Yes, some were hot in the beginning of the year, some in the middle of the year, some of the end. Obviously, you want to be hot at the end, but don't count any of them out. You just never know. And are the odds? Let's face it. We all know I'm a Brewers fan.
Yep.
I want my Brewers to win, but they weren't the top. They had the best record in baseball, but they don't have the best odds of winning because they haven't proven that they can win the World Series. So, but we've all made different points for different teams. I think any one of them, if they get hot in this playoffs, any one of them can win.
All right, let me close this topic out by saying this. Number one, you brought up the Brewers. We're going to mention that they did set a franchise record for 97 wins.
Yep.
More power to the Brewers. Evidently, Pat Murphy and Craig Counsell, no drop off there. I don't know why I have a crazy feeling that Seattle's going to get the World Series. I don't even know why. And if you're really looking for the ultimate storyline, wouldn't it be amazing if it was Seattle-Milwaukee matchup? Time will tell, but that's something to put out there. Leave it at that. So, all right, as we continue on, George Eichhorn and I will remember this as long as we will ever remember anything. September 27th, 1999, final game at Tiger Stadium, Detroit. George, this is something that we could just relate to everybody else. We both covered that game. If there's a day that I can freeze in my lifetime in time, it was going to that particular game. We were up in the press box. We took it all in, and it was just surreal. Before we get to that, I'll also mention a couple of things. That September 27th, 2025, the Tigers clinch a playoff berth. Albeit, I think they backed into it, but that's for another time. And unfortunately, Detroit lost a legendary broadcaster, and Ray Lane, who passed away at the age of 95, is what he did. So there's a lot to digest in this situation. I met Ray through the Detroit Sports Broadcast Association. What do they call it these days? Detroit Sports Media Association? I think that's right.
Yeah, DSM.
So rest in peace, Ray. I do have pictures of you and a whole lot of memories. Tigers' final game is September 27th, 1999, and the Tigers getting the postseason. All right, you know what, George? You can lead off, and I'm going to whip it around for everybody.
Sure. And yeah, Scott, it was a great game. I'm so glad you were at my side and vice versa as we sat in the old, and appropriately, they put us in the old press deck, as they called it, for football, which is exposed to the elements. They don't have glass in front of us. In the main press box at Tiger Stadium, they had the glass. Well, anyways, so we got a real feel. Scott and I got a real feel for this game and the crowd and the intensity and the excitement. Cameras popping all over the place and all that. Robert Fick's home run. And then, of course, after Detroit won, Todd Jones, I think, got the save. We witnessed something that we rarely see in sports, and especially not too often in Detroit, where the Hall of Famers and the favorite fan players, if you will, ran out to their position one last time. A few of them had to be brought out by wheelchairs. It was just unbelievable to see Kaline and Horton and Lolich and McLean and all these guys. And it was just a tremendous, tremendous event. And Scott, Ernie Harwell was there, our dear friend, Uncle Ernie, and what a great job as master of ceremony Ernie did too. And you know, like you said, I mean, those kind of days are frozen, and you like to have those. And thank goodness you can still go on and, you know, see some of this on the internet. But it was a great game, and a great event for us.
Yeah, if there's ever a time to have a cell phone with photos, that would have been it. So, all right, George, as we whip around, give us your thoughts really quickly. And I said quickly about the Tigers getting into postseason, not the way they had hoped to with that 15.5 game collapse, but, you know, they're in nonetheless.
You know, and basically they lucked into it. I mean, let's face it. I mean, Houston could have easily slid ahead of them, but they couldn't do it. And the Tigers, of course, with this tremendous swoon that they experienced. And don't forget the last two series. I mean, they could only win one in Cleveland. Then they could only take one at Fenway Park. If they had just won a couple more games, they would have won the division. But they didn't. The fact of the matter is like you and all our guests have said, you know, it's a new season now. Don't count anybody out, but I am very, very leery. I don't think the Tigers have the right tools to advance this year. They've got a lot of problems, especially hitting.
Of course, so we talked about Lane. We talked about the final game. Any thing that stands out about you about Ray Lane?
Ray Lane, former sidekick to Ernie Harwell, and then of course he did television for several teams in Detroit. What a great guy! I mean, 95 years old, just a great guy, and he treated everybody so well, as I know you did experience too, Scott. I mean, just a friendly guy, always kidding around. He did the Red Wings, Lions, Tigers, Pistons. What more could you say? This man he was a walking encyclopedia of sports. So we're going to miss him, but yeah, it's a great tribute to him to have
All right,
this. Yep.
all right, Skip. What are your thoughts about all of this? Tigers Stadium, Ray Lane, and the Tigers backing in it. Goodness.
Yeah, sounds like y'all had a great experience in that last game there. I broke into the big leagues. My rookie season, if you can call it a rookie season, was in 1999. Unfortunately, I didn't get to
Wow.
play in old Tiger Stadium, but that was one of the things I loved the most about the big leagues was getting to play in every stadium, right? And I would have loved to have gotten to play at least one game in the old Tiger Stadium, but unfortunately I didn't get to because I love just being able to remember all the nuances of all the stadiums. That's something that always sticks with me.
Now let's talk about the Tigers back again. And I don't know if you
Yeah,
know much about Ray Lane,
yeah.
but
You know what? I think they did back in. Obviously, they had a great season, a majority of the season, so they got to feel proud about that. The bottom line is get in the playoffs and then do the work, right? Like George said, fresh start. It's a new season. Let's just get to work. So just get in and then play the way you can and see what happens.
Eric,
I
and
mean,
you don't know much about Ray Lane, so don't worry about that.
Yeah.
We'll let Eric go
I know,
on.
I know, I know Tiger Stadium though, where it was one. It was at the time. It was one of the stadiums where fans were truly close to the action. They
Yeah.
were practically right. They were practically right on top of the players. I know during the closing ceremonies, though, Ron LaFleur unfortunately got arrested during that,
Yeah.
and I'm sure while in the press box, Scott's hair was probably brown at the time, and
Yeah, you seem to mention that a lot, don't you?
you
Keep
still look
going.
good. And
Thanks.
yeah, I mean, obviously Tiger Stadium, it was something else too, because it was around a very long time, and obviously home to some great moments, especially the '68 Tigers kind of helping the city of Detroit heal, and then obviously the just unbelievable '84 Tigers team, which they just ran away with it from day one practically. And so, yeah, it was obviously it was good for, it was, obviously everything comes to an end though. But glad, Scott, you must have had one heck of a time covering that game. Same with George.
It was incredible too, Eric, because the two games I went to that year were opening day, the first one I've ever covered at Tiger Stadium, and the final game. And credit to Tyler Barnes, PR guy at the time who's now with the Milwaukee Brewers. So hopefully we'll
Yep.
get in touch with Tyler Barnes and talk to him. I have some things I want to talk to him down the road, but we'll leave it at that. Yeah, it was brown, and if you want to see my brown hair, Candy will give you a reason to look for it later. All right, Candy, your thoughts about what you just heard with all of this?
So let's start with the Tigers. The Tigers were hot for so long. They've obviously fallen off, but not fallen off enough that they're out of the playoffs. So they're in. So that now you wipe that whole regular season and you start 0-0. What you did in the regular season doesn't matter. You got into the playoffs. Now you got to play ball in the playoffs. So you got to pitch and you got to hit and you got to do both. So we'll see how the Tigers fare. As far as Tiger Stadium, there are some iconic stadiums that are no longer stadiums because these stadiums get outdated. But there were some very special moments in some of those stadiums. And that's what we remember. And the people that were in those stadiums for those moments are what we remember. That's what the memories we have. And luckily, there are some videos of different things from some stadiums. Some stadiums you can't go; they don't go back that far. But I totally understand, your stadium being what it was to you, and As far as Ray Lane, I didn't know him, but let's face it, there are other broadcasters that we've lost to this year that, other fan bases will appreciate and can appreciate what you guys are going through in Detroit with Ray Lane.
Great stuff, Candy. All right, Rob.
Yeah, Ray Lane was a great one. I heard him a couple of times. I had to go to something in Detroit when I worked for the Bergen Record. There was something for the Detroit Free Press. This was a long time ago.
Okay.
I was in Detroit. I heard him do a Tigers game, so he was a legend. I know that he was a legend. As far as the Tigers making it, hey, they backed in, but they made it. I'm the last one who could say anything about anything right now.
You're right.
And I'm jealous of you guys had such a great closing to Tiger Stadium. What a place that stadium was. The Met, at least the Tigers did it the right way. The Mets in 2008. Yes, I know. I was there. I know the date. The Mets in 2008 had to win that last game against the Marlins, and guess what happened? They lost. They missed the postseason, and then they had to close the stadium after that loss. So we had to sit there and watch everything after that bad loss. So I'm a little jealous of you guys. You got to see your stadium close with a big win.
Yeah, that was surreal. Like George and I both talked about it. We've talked about it for years.
Yeah.
If there's a day we could freeze in time, that was it. I've had a lot of great moments up and down over the years, but that was one day that I'll never forget. And my source on Instagram, where I get a lot of these days, that wasn't even on Instagram. I knew this off the top of my head. I knew this thing was coming up on Monday night. No big deal. Instagram is great for me, so I'm not knocking it at all. But this is one that we had to get out, and we did. So with that said, let's stay with the Tiger theme just a little bit, because this is just too surreal. It really is. Get this, Miguel Cabrera. We're going to talk about him. There was an old binder found from Goodwill. A collector discovered a card in that Goodwill binder. Can you believe that you can find a Miguel Cabrera in a binder at Goodwill? All right, Rob, what are your thoughts? How surreal is this?
Hey, that's a lucky find. Sometimes people find some cool things in Goodwill. I heard someone found like one of the original copies of the Declaration of Independence behind a picture frame. So you never know. But hey, that's a good find. If I congratulations if you can find something like that in Goodwill.
See, Candy, maybe we need to be going there more often. We might fatten our pockets up there a little quicker with that. Go ahead, Candy. What are your thoughts about the find about Miguel Cabrera?
One man's junk can be another man's treasure, and you just never know what you find. And I hate to say this, but in today's day and age, baseball cards were a thing that you guys used to trade, and it used to be really big. And I'm not saying that they're not big now, but it's not as big because people aren't necessarily the same collectors that they used to be. And let's face it, there are some people out there that think baseball cards are junk. And I'm not saying necessarily me, but specifically, Scott, I could almost say like your mom probably would think that they weren't that good and they weren't worth keeping. And so sometimes when people have to clean up, like let's say, unfortunately, someone passes away, you go clean their house. Sometimes you just take boxes of stuff. Who knows what it could have in it? It could have these gems. You just never know what you have. But again, another man's junk could be another man's treasure.
Yes, and Candy, don't bring that up because that's one of the most depressing days. My mom went out there and threw it away. She also threw away a bunch of valuable stuff for a book many years ago. Luckily, I recovered some of it and I ended up writing that first book anyway. So that's for sure. Oh, don't worry. I got another Mickey thing. Go ahead, Candy. You have an answer to that?
But I was going to say, you're not the only one. There's probably a lot of other moms that did the exact same thing, cleaning up people's rooms and houses and people that don't even know. Unfortunately, depending on how old some people live, if you don't have kids, you don't have a family, who's going to clean up your house? Who's going to know what's what? If somebody comes in and just takes it all, donates it, you never know what you're going to find at Goodwill.
Well, let me tell you one thing. What this person ended up getting was the equivalent to a lottery ticket. That's all I'm
I
going to say.
understand. I
That was a
understand.
lottery ticket. All right, Eric.
Well, fortunately, my parents did not throw away my baseball cards, and they are still at my parents' house, just in a box. Which I promised them eventually I'm going to go and get that box. But I digress. I mean, it's a different generation now. When I was a kid, baseball cards were the thing. I think you could probably make the argument my generation was probably the last of them to be collecting stuff like that. But just everything changes with as the generations move on. I mean, that's just how it goes. I mean, collecting, it's different now. I think I heard somewhere that you can now collect baseball cards electronically, which cool, but not the cool, but and that's become a little popular. It's cool, but not nearly the same.
Mickey? Mickey?
Yeah, it's just sad the way the baseball card has gone. I think Pokemon cards are more popular than baseball cards now, which is a shame. But, I remember trading baseball cards when I was a little kid with my buddies, and it was just such an amazing thing, And then when I first started getting into the big leagues, it was right after the baseball card had kind of started its decline. And, it used to be such big money out there. The players were getting tons of money because of baseball cards, and their shares went down tremendously once baseball cards kind of became not as popular. So, it's just a sad thing, but, I think that's awesome that someone could go into Goodwill that values a baseball card and find a Miguel Cabrera card. That's awesome.
That's cool.
I'm sure there's tons of Ty Cobb cards in those Goodwill somewhere. Scott, if you want to buy out some cards.
Wait. Don't give him ideas.
Hey, Skip, I was waiting for that Ty Cobb reference. I knew it. That's why this guy's becoming a superstar or never. I was waiting for that Ty Cobb reference. I love you, Skip. I knew he was going to hit me with a Ty Cobb one. Great stuff with this guy. Ty Cobb. All right, who hasn't talked about this one? Are you next, Eichhorn?
Yep. Yeah, I'm next. And I collected them, but I did a stupid thing going back many, many years. I had a sidewalk neighborhood sale, and I went and put my whole set of cards out. Yeah. Do I have my dunce cap on? I should. And you know what? A friend of mine bought him. I'm not going to mention his name on the air. No, it's not Scott. A friend of mine bought him from me, from right underneath me, like a whole set of 1967 or 68. Are you kidding me? All those stars I had in there, and I sold it to him for $24.
Was it John Lindler? Was it John Lindler?
No,
it was
not him.
No, that was a lot of money back then. That was a lot of money back then, George.
I knew it was, and I needed money. But Eric, I tell you what, it's the biggest regret as far as collecting I ever did. But the fact of the matter is, Scott, like you said, there's a hidden gem that person found, and there's still a lot of good cards out there. I have a limited collection. I still have some, but not nearly what I used to have back in the late 60s.
That's okay. All right, well, let's stay on the Miguel Cabrera theme here, okay? Because on this date in 2004, September 29th, 2004, he hits a final home run in Montreal's Olympic Stadium with the Florida Marlins. We know Eric loves Montreal's Olympic Stadium, don't we, Eric?
It's a concrete dump.
Right. With the Florida Marlins. Okay, the Florida Marlins. Any thoughts about this, Eric?
I mean, obviously it was around the time where where I think the Expos were starting to kind of leave town at that point, and to eventually become what they are now, which is the Washington Nationals. Actually, they're starting to put more and more documentaries out there because people want to find out who truly killed the Montreal Expos. Which, to be truthful, it was you don't have to look any further than the fact that all their owners were broke. But it's obviously the Expos, aside from a year here in the 80s, I think 1980 and then 1994, they really weren't that good. They were a lot more dysfunctional. They make the Marlins look like a sane organization with what they went through. And it's just it's. But yeah, the home run out of Olympic Stadium, that's hard to do because that was it's very hard to hit there, especially because number one, it's cold in Canada for about 10 or 11 months out of the year, and number two, it's a pretty big ballpark, pretty big outfield. In order to hit it out of there, you really have to give it a whack. The other guy who did that, I believe, was Darryl Strawberry, right off of Randy St. Clair.
3 points. Skip, what are your thoughts? You ever make it to Olympic Stadium?
Yeah, I made my major league debut there.
Wow.
And Vladimir Guerrero hit one probably that was close to going out of everything. So it was time for that stadium to go, though. I made my debut there, and there was like 4,000 people there. I think half the people there were from my hometown. So it was time for that to get out of there.
That's okay. Good stuff, Skip. I'm not bad. Look at this. All this stuff we come up with, and look at all the connections. All right, Icorn.
Well, I never had the chance to go there, of course, but it's interesting that Cabrera did that. I mean, Miguel, what a fantastic career, and of course, that early part, those formative years with the Marlins, and the concrete dump. Yeah, I like that, Eric. That's a good name for it. But that other one was bad. Was the Jerry? I think it was called Jerry Park.
Jerry Park.
Yeah, their first one was just a small, wasn't it? Bandbox kind of stadium.
It was basically a little league park.
Little League Park, yeah. So they had two really odd and unfortunately bad stadiums that they played in. But Miguel had an unbelievable career, and I appreciate you sharing that, Scott, because I never knew that bit of trivia there about Miggy hitting the last home run there out of the Olympic Stadium. Good stuff, man.
Well, George, my crack research department comes up with all this stuff.
That's right.
So you don't have to worry. I got plenty of other good stuff. You guys haven't begun to hit the tip of the iceberg. Jerry Park was only meant to be a temporary place until they built something permanent, and that's when Olympic Stadium came into play because they were going after the 1976 Olympics, and as a result, Expos started playing there. All right, Candy.
One of the interesting tidbits of the Olympic Stadium is for the 1976 Olympics, it had a capacity of 73,000. For baseball, its capacity was 49,757. For soccer, it was 61,000, and for football, it was 66,300. So it was one of those stadiums where you played multiple different venues in it, and so I think that played a role in the shape of it, right? And that plays in the dynamics of it, and you being able to hit a home run out of the park. But if anybody could do it, Miguel had power. He had legs behind him that could really get into his swing, and he could hit for power. So kudos to him.
Yeah, that was a shot, and like Eric said, Strawberry hit the roof actually. Yep. So if there wasn't that roof material, that ball would still be going out. So that was a shot. The Expos, the strike killed the Expos. That's plain and simple.
Couldn't agree more, Rob. Period. And we'll talk about the strike at a later date. So with that said, let's keep moving on. George mentioned a little bit about ABC and ESPN going out. Well, guess what, George? I can't tell you how many I told you, so I've told you in my lifetime, but I'm going to reinforce another one of them, okay? And that's this. NBC Universal reportedly made a bid for ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, and recent updates indicated they got it. We'll provide more updates going forward, but baseball on NBC has a good ring to it for at least 3 years. Okay, George, I'll lead off with you on this one.
Well, us being old guys, I could still remember those NBC days. My God, they did a great job. Kurt Gowdy and Tony Kubek and Jim Simpson and all those guys. I tell you what, when it first happened and that ABC and ESPN, Disney were going to walk away from baseball, I wasn't very happy about it. But to be able to hook up with NBC and Peacock is a brilliant move for Manfred and the league. I think that there's a certain audience there that's going to be there as long as the the game keeps going on. And that's the people that like to see games are more featured, game of the week, if you will, 2 games of the week, or that kind of format. There's still a good bit of the older audience that likes to see that. But beyond that, NBC, they got the NBA rights. Now they got baseball would be a great fit for them too, obviously. Fox has done a nice job. I'm not complaining about Fox and FS1, but to see NBC and the Peacock Network back at Major League Baseball brings joy to my heart. I forgot about Joe Garagiola, of course, too, all those years there. They did a great job back in the day. No question about it. That's a good marriage. I'd like to see that, yes.
Skip.
Yeah, this will be great to see, right? I can't wait to see, new graphics and all that stuff. That's always exciting. And what's awesome about Sunday Night Baseball is, if you're a team and you're going to be on, playing on that Sunday and that showcase, you start hearing about it about 3 or 4 weeks before. And people are like, hey, we're going to, in the clubhouse, people are like, hey, we're going to be on Sunday Night Baseball. So it means something to the players as well, because it's just really cool just to be part of, because you're kind of featured that week, like George said, and it's just a great experience for the players, the coaches, and the fans. So it'll be interesting to see. I hope they do something really awesome with it and really make it something new and fresh and really draw in all those Sunday night viewers.
Great stuff, Skip. And not only that, let's face the reality. Vince Scully's not walking through that door, but he did a heck of a job with Garagiola on his show. So, all right, Eric.
Well, obviously it's not the first time NBC has hosted the NBA or Major League Baseball, because I know Bob Costas was a regular voice of as play-by-play for a very long time for baseball but yeah, I'm glad they're moving away from ESPN, to be honest with you, because ESPN's kind of just become NBA, NFL. That's their calling card. No longer is baseball. Baseball Tonight used to be a regular show. Now it's only really done in segments now, as kind of like one of the lower sections of ESPN now. Which, to be truthful, I haven't liked the decline of it, because they formatted their shows to essentially give all the attention in the world to the NFL and the NBA, which is awful. I think after John Miller and Joe Morgan left, they kind of lost the ESPN Sunday Night Baseball really went downhill, because they could never replace the match those two guys used to put on every Sunday night. Actually, I used to sneak downstairs and try and catch as many innings as I could before inevitably I got caught. They were, but yeah, I mean, good for NBC to get it back, because gosh, it's gonna be great. I think that it'll be even better than what it was, and I'm not sure who the voice is gonna be of those Sunday night games, but it's gonna be great having a national television audience again.
Agreed. Rob.
Oh, yeah. I used to love when NBC did the games on Saturdays and the World Series and everything. I mean, I'm going to mention a Mets thing, but 1986 World Series with Joe Garagiola and Vince Scully. I mean, that was great. And I have Joe Garagiola as one of his press passes, believe it or not. I do, which is pretty funny from, I guess, the early, I think it's from the early 2000s. Yeah, like 2002 or something.
Yeah, it's funny how you mentioned Joe Garagiola, Rob, because I ended up meeting him over when he was with the Diamondbacks. So Joe Garagiola at the end of this time.
That's the press pass I have.
Well, there you go. We had Diamondbacks.
Rob on NBC did it in the '86 World Series in Game 6. Was it on NBC where the little ball went up the first base line under Buckner's glove?
Yeah, well, I was at Shea Stadium, so I didn't hear the call till the next day, because I was at the game.
I'm sure the place was up for grabs.
We'll be talking about Bill Buckner at a later date for sure. Could be sooner than later, but it's a good way to mention it. We all know Vince Scully is synonymous with a lot of big calls, and that surely was one of them. So with that said, we'll turn over to Candy. We have more to get to. Sanction break coming up shortly, and I do have 2 non-sports topics that I will mention, despite what we have. And let me tell you, these will be good ones. All right, Candy, go ahead.
Sometimes things come full circle. Major League Baseball games first aired on NBC back in 1947.
Yeah.
1947.
Right.
So it's cool to see them come back. I mean, let's face it, with the options of all the different streaming, all the different places you can go. It's kind of nice for some people that like the old school regular networks that they can have on regular TV to watch these games and these marquee matchups, because that's what they do on Sunday nights. They put in like game of the week, the teams that they think are doing hot, that are hot right now or have the hot uh, big names. And so kudos to NBC for getting it back.
Yeah, I'm glad it is back on NBC. I hope that beyond the 3 years that NBC keeps it for good. Baseball and NBC definitely are a good combination for sure. All right, with that said, okay, we're going to talk about Nolan Arenado. When Nolan Arenado hit his 350th home run, he made his case for Cooperstown and also had 10 gold gloves to show for it. All right, Rob, I'll lead off with you on this one, my friend. Nolan Arenado. We don't know what's going to happen during the offseason, but I'm telling you one thing, numbers like that certainly help his cause.
Yeah, he's right up there on that line with the Hall of Fame. You're right. The Gold Gloves, that's great. Listen, he almost went to the Yankees too last offseason, right, Eric?
Yep.
I don't know if Eric, right. He almost went to the Yankees. So yeah, I think he has a chance of getting in the Hall of Fame.
Candy?
8 All-Star games, 10 Gold Glove, 5 Silver Slug Awards, 3 times National League home run leader, and 2-time National League RBI leader. Some of those numbers, would suggest that he could be one of those. But again, there's these borderline players that we've talked about that, these numbers are good, but are they great? And are we putting good or are we putting great in the Hall? So you just never know.
Eric?
I mean, Nolan Arenado is obviously, the best third baseman of my generation, given that he could hit for power and he was really good defensively. He was either a finalist for a Gold Glover, and obviously he won 10 Gold Gloves, but you could definitely count on him being in the All-Star game every year. I know in the offseason the Cardinals had a trade in place for him to go to the Houston Astros, but ultimately Nolan Arenado wanted to wait out his options, and ultimately Houston didn't feel like waiting around. They went and got Isaac Paredes instead, and so that kind of ended it there. And then the Yankees, they were rumored to be after him, which I'm glad they didn't, because originally what they thought about doing was doing a salary dump for a salary dump, which they would have traded Marcus Stroman for Nolan Arenado, which would have been, both sides would have,
Right.
Both sides would have probably worked out the money in some sort of fashion, but ultimately the deal didn't come to fruition. He's a Hall of Famer for sure. Right now, he's kind of just in the twilight of his career. I know the Cardinals are trying to get out of that contract, at least try and have somebody else eat some of it up for them. But right now, the challenge there is Nolan Arenado, for all intents and purposes, is a declining player. So it makes it very hard to trade those guys unless you want him there just to sell tickets. So, at the moment though, Hall of Famer for sure, but right now, he's in my opinion, he's currently retired and he doesn't know it yet.
That's fine. George?
Yeah, just following up on what Candy said about the stats. Interesting, when I looked him up, just a little reacquaint myself a little bit with him, but most of his awards, they dried up after like 2021,
Yep.
2020. So that's a sure indicator that, like you said, Eric, he is in the twilight of his career. So don't get me wrong, he's just shy of 2,000 hits. But it would be an unbelievable stretch to imagine him getting into the Hall of Fame on 3,000 hits. That's not going to happen. But you can't argue with his success. I mean, he has had these great years, but now on the tail end of his career, like we see often, you're paying for what he accomplished previously. Good guy. Cardinals didn't make the playoffs again, but anyways, I like him. I always liked him as a ball player, Scott. I really did.
Skip talked about Nolan Arenado.
Yeah, I think he's on the cusp. I think it could go either way. I think he, just getting to watch him play during the time that I'm really paying attention to baseball, coaching and playing and managing. He's one of the best third basemen I've ever seen play live, and I loved his defensive, prowess. I thought he was just such a smooth third baseman, or is a smooth third baseman. 350 home runs is an amazing feat, especially with the kind of defense that he played. So, I'm pulling for him to get in the Hall of Fame, but like George said, it's it might be a little bit of a stretch. So we'll just see. We'll have to see how the voters vote.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, time for our first non-sport topic of the night. Everybody's wondering what it was going to be. We're going to talk about transportation, people. Okay, Skip, a little different than what you have to do tonight. I realize you're driving in the dark, but don't worry about it, Skip. I always like to keep a transportation topic in, especially when you're on board. Okay, China has completed the world's widest undercover roadway in just 110 days using a giant 17 meter tunnel, which has a boring machine called a Shanki. A engineered built a massive underwater tunnel beneath the Yellow River in Jinan. It's 55.8 feet wide, will carry GL lanes of traffic and set a new global record for shield tunnel construction. Skip, how do you like the underwater roadway? Not bad. You don't have to worry about the traffic jam.
Yeah. I'm sure it's going to be, fun for the people that get to travel under it. I'm thankful that I will never have to drive under that tunnel. I can promise you that. That is not something that sounds very exciting to me. So, awesome feat. That's really cool. The boring machine sounds really awesome to me. Maybe Elon Musk will invent one and do his little underground railroad that he plans on doing at some point.
Excellent, Skip. Let me tell you, this guy getting better. I love it. He brings on Elon Musk. I don't know. Do they use boring machines? Are they going to begin to make your lessons? I mean, I don't know what these machines are. I have no idea. I imagine they'll use some of this technological stuff. That's a great response, Skip. I'm impressed. And you know what? Because of after this one, we're going to hit one more non-sport topic. Candy's going to go to a station break, then we'll finish the show with baseball. George, what are your thoughts about this underwater, the underwater rope plane?
The underwater shield tunnel, unbelievable. I mean, God bless them. I mean, they've got some great ideas, great engineers in China, as we do, of course, in the United States as well. But this one really, really is very unique. I never heard of something like this being constructed in such a wide area too. Like you said, multiple lanes. It's an incredible feat. But I'm sort of like you, Skip. I don't want to be the first car or the first walker through that tunnel. Let's see if it's all, protected the way it should be. I'm sure it will be, but it's going to be a little eerie for some people to go underneath or go through it. But hats off to the Chinese. Good work there.
I'll tell you what, I drive on it. Then again, those people that know, I'd drive on anything. As long as I'm able to do it, you can put me underwater, above water, on a bridge, whatever. And if I'm behind the wheel, be prepared for anything. All right, go ahead, Eric.
Well, it's interesting too, though, because it's a feat of it's an engineering feat. I mean, it's incredible how they were able to put something like that underneath the water. I think it'd be pretty cool to go under, because you could say you're literally driving under the water. But it's just a nice engineering feat.
Candy?
The thing that gets me is it was completed in just 110 days. Its massive 55.8 foot diameter allows for 6 lanes of traffic. And the construction utilized the Shang TBM, which advanced at an unprecedented speed of over 59 feet per day. That just sounds like, to me, when you think of like a tunnel like that and you're doing it that quickly, like, how well is it really constructed? How well is, like, I'm not sure I want to be one of the first ones in there, but to give you like another example of a tunnel, mean, Scott, isn't there a tunnel? There's a tunnel that we took between Detroit and Windsor, right? And that's underwater as well too. So it kind of reminds me of that.
Great point, Candy. Detroit Windsor Tunnel. Make an Icorn feel at home. You don't have to comment, of course. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead. I know one thing, you have subways in New York, so I don't imagine no underwater railway.
Could it be constructed any worse than some of these subways in New York? That's what I want to know. But I'm not driving in that thing. No way. It was, like Candy said, it was constructed too quickly. I don't care how good the engineers are. That's too fast for me. All right. I've seen some of these things that come over from China. When people I know order it from Temu or whatever that is, and the things fall apart in like 2 days. So I'd wait a while. I want to see what happens before I go through that tunnel.
That's a fair assessment. All right. So since we did so good on this non-sport topic, we're going to do one more. Go to a station break. A lot more baseball to come. Japan faces a housing crisis with over 9 million empty homes. Why are they having this housing crisis? That's easy. A mid-population decline from rural Akaya to urban apartments as its aging population shrinks and birth rates are plummet. Well, I can see why that. I mean, you have 9 million homes and you have a lot of senior citizens and the birth rate. Rob, what's your take on this one?
So what you're saying, there's too many empty places now in Japan?
Well, how about 9 million of them?
9 million of them. No wonder why houses are so cheap in Japan. My stepson just got back from Japan. He was there for about 3 weeks, and he was amazed at the prices of houses there. He said, decent houses, $250,000. So I guess that's the reason why. So if anybody wants to retire there, hey, they have some great baseball to watch there, right? In person.
Well, I don't know about Akaya. Okay, I know they have it in Tokyo, but 9 million empty homes mainly because of its aging population, which everybody knows that you get a lot of 100-year-olds in Japan, and let's face the reality. And if the birth rates are down, I can see why you got 9 million. All right, Skip. The last one you're gonna have to face with tonight. Then we go back to baseball. But these are just so interesting that it was just too hard to pass up. What are your thoughts about those empty homes, 9 million plus? Senior citizens, Skip. Mickey. All right. Well, we'll see. We're picking him up here. I don't know where he's at. Traveling. All right. We'll go with you, Candy, and give us your take on this.
I think part of it is the younger generation, I think, wants to be in a big city. They don't want some of these rural areas. They want to be in the big city where the action is. So I think the bigger cities are having the population, whereas the rural areas are having fewer and fewer people and demand for the housing out there. And so I think that plays a role in it. Let's face it, there are a lot of aging people in the community, and they can't live in homes like that. So I think that's part of it. You find more and more people needing, the elderly population needing to be in, whether it be retirement homes or whatnot. I think that has to do with it too. Having vacant homes is not a good look though either. So they're gonna have to figure out what they can do for that.
All right, Skip, do we have you back?
Yeah, I'm back. I think I was going through an underwater tunnel here. I guess people are going to have internet when they go through that tunnel in China. So don't be doing your podcasts over there in China if you're in the Xinjiang province or whatever that is.
Well, this guy's incredible.
You know what, Scott? I think this is going to happen everywhere because young people can't afford to have kids. So the population is not growing the way it used to, because the cost of living is so high. When my parents were raising us, you could afford a house and 3 kids. You can't do that anymore. It costs too much. I saw a stat the other day. It costs $2.5 million now to have a kid in your household throughout its lifetime. And you just,
Wow.
so these younger generation, they're not making enough money to say, you know what, I can raise a kid comfortably. So the population's going down. You know, it's just not growing at the rate it was. So all these houses are going to sit there empty, and it's going to happen here in the United States until we get things under control.
Great point, Skip. All right, George.
Yeah, I agree with you, Skip. I mean, we're seeing this around the world, the birth rates going down, and obviously it really stands out with this kind of statistic in Japan. I think basically is you're going to have the whole world order could be different than what we're used to. Okay, because not only would the birth rates affect of the housing, like you said in Japan, Scott, there's down so many available. But then you're talking about the jobs, who's going to do the jobs, and we're talking about real estate. You're talking about office space, a glut of that. You know, it's just a snowball effect. So it is a little unsettling to me to hear that kind of stat coming from Japan, and I'm sure those numbers are going to be high for North America as well. So it really is it really is an eye opener for those of us that are of the baby boomer era, which
Right.
I am, and you are too, Scott. Yeah.
Okay, Eric.
Well, it's becoming a worldwide problem, clearly, because with inflation and all that in recent years, it's becoming harder and harder and harder to buy a house. I can attest to with the younger generation, myself included, wanting to live in the city because let me tell you, I'd rather be able to go to, like, say, a ball game that's 15 minutes from my house and get home at a pretty decent hour, like 9, 10 o'clock at night, which is pretty good for the work week. And then I'd rather get home at like 9 o'clock in the morning. Say I'm driving in traffic, or if I'm in Chicago, I'm taking the train, which takes even longer. But this, as far as like that, and as far as the housing goes, it's becoming expensive, man. It is. I mean, jobs are not keeping up with inflation. It's been. I mean, I could go out a whole rant about that to where it'd probably be more epic than the one I went on Saturday. It's a problem that needs to be fixed. I mean, the reason why the birth rate is so low is because what money to take care of the kids? Do we really want to set the kid up for failure? And do we really want to look bad to society if we cannot provide that kid with a chance to be successful? I mean, that's what it boils down to. So if they want more people on this earth, you better figure out a way to make things a little more affordable. Otherwise, you're going to have a whole lot of elderly people here.
Yeah, the one thing I like about what this group has done on this topic, and I'm glad for every one of you, is that you're able to relate it to what things are going on in this day and age. That's what I was looking for, and that's what I was able to get. Another thing I'm looking for is a station break. Go ahead, Candy. When we come back, we'll be talking more baseball, and I have a no-hitter to talk about as well. So when we come back, we'll continue the baseball aspect of the show, but glad to get those other two non-sports ones in.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth, along with the foreword written by another panelist here, Mr. George Eichhorn. Great job, gentlemen. Book talks about media and how media has evolved over the last 40 plus years. Get your copy today. It also has a picture of a young Scott with a young Tommy Lasorda. So go get your copy today. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there is a plethora of great content. So go check it out. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to advertise, you can call Scott 954-304-4941. If you want to be a guest or have topic ideas, you can always email us at southfloridatribune.com. But most importantly, if you see that red subscribe button in that lower right-hand corner, that means you have not yet subscribed to us. What are you waiting for? Click it, like us, share us, and then turn that notification button on so you're notified every time we go live. We have programming Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, and don't forget, wake up with us Saturday morning. Back to you, Scott.
All right, thanks very much. All right, on to baseball. We'll talk about a trade deadline deal that didn't work out for the Houston Astros as they were eliminated on the final game day of the year or two. But we'll talk about this trade anyways. Houston Astros received Raymond Urias and the Baltimore. So let's go back to it. Yeah, Houston received Raymond Urias. Baltimore Orioles ended up getting right-handed pitcher Twine Palmer of Signal A. Any thoughts, Eric, about this particular trade? Minor trade, but nevertheless, it occurred at the deadline.
Well, Houston was kind of in win now mode, and Baltimore, Baltimore wasn't having a great year. Really, the whole trade deadline for Houston really didn't work out. But Urias was a good kind of utility-ish player for the Orioles the past couple years. And so, I mean, he was somewhat effective, and for a utility player, but ultimately he didn't have the same impact that he had in Baltimore that Houston was hoping for, because all he had was 3 home runs and 10 RBI, while he had 8 home runs and 34 RBI in Baltimore. Ultimately, it didn't work out for Houston, which, to be truthful, I'm not feeling too bad about it. But it's, I'm glad that, it's just unfortunately, you roll the dice in these trade deadlines. They look great on paper, but you don't know what's going to happen unless you put them out on the field, because switching uniforms is a big change. It's not as easy as people think, because, you're switching environments, you're switching clubhouses. The clubhouse kind of has their own kind of groups of people who have become like tight with each other as the year has gone on, because you kind of get those relationships going kind of spring training, and by that point they've been together like 3 or 4 months at that point, so it's kind of harder to kind of fit yourself in there. But again, you switch uniforms, sometimes it always doesn't work out. I know the New York Mets have had quite a few of those over the years, and it's unfortunate for Houston. But am I sad that they made the playoffs? Absolutely not.
Yep. Minor trade, but nevertheless, the one made it to deadline.
Yeah. You at the deadline, you're talking to all the teams, trying to improve your team the best you can. And sometimes those talks kind of go into, maybe some trades that aren't as impactful, but maybe would help you out in the future. Obviously this was just a minor trade, and they were probably just looking for somebody to rest some of their guys on occasion, because rest is such a big thing, and get somebody that can step in and kind of hold their own, to rest some of their players to get the most productivity out of them. And then that kind of what this trade seems like to me.
George?
Yeah, I think that, you ideally you're like, you're giving something up, but you're getting something in return kind of thing for both teams. And obviously Baltimore, they've really struggled lately. I was expecting better things out of him. I got to be honest with you, Ramon. I thought that he's either had injuries or he's been platooned. He hasn't played more than 118 games in any single year. He started his career in 2020, but the thing is that there's still a future for him. I mean, he's still young. But obviously both teams didn't miss the playoffs, so neither one of the teams really could benefit totally. At 31 years old, I think Ramon Urias still has a future. Not quite sure if it'll be obviously as great as he had hoped it would be, but there's still time. He's a lifetime 257 hitter, which is middle of the pack.
Katie?
The trade for the Houston Astros filled a void at third base as the Astros' Isaac Paredes was sidelined with a hamstring injury. So that's why they went out and got him. He was a utility player. He was a 2022 Gold Glove winner. He adds versatility and a veteran infield presence to the Houston roster. Was it a win-win? That'll still remain to be seen. sometimes you don't know these things, especially right away, but you're at the trade deadline. If you're still in it, you're trying to do whatever you can to take yourself over the hump. Obviously, it wasn't enough to take them over the hump for this year, but who knows about next year?
Rob?
Yeah, he filled a void. He hit what I think, like Eric said, he hit 3 home runs. I mean, not a big impact. And Houston did not make the postseason this year. And like Eric, I'm not too sad about that either.
Yeah, figured you wouldn't. No, great stuff. I like to get these trade deadlines in. That's why I don't comment on when they happen. I like to take the wait and see approach over the course of time until you ultimately get to the postseason. Well, and I'm going to talk about something from my alma mater, University of South Florida. That being that 3 USF pitchers were picked in the 2025 MLB draft. Additionally, 2 USF commits were drafted out of high school and will sign with MLB. We're talking about Corey Braun, Austin Newton, Bryce Archie were the first 3 ML picks of Milton Hanna's era. USF's program has produced 134 picks all told. I can tell you right now, Robin Roberts and Eddie Cardieri. Hopefully, I'll get Eddie Cardieri on one of these shows. But what are your thoughts about the way USF is producing players, Skip?
Yeah, I mean that's awesome feat for them. They have a great baseball program,
right?
And just to get that, anytime you're a college athletic program, you want to sign the best players you can, but that's very difficult. So they must be really doing a great job at recruiting to be, getting their players that they sign stolen away by, the Major League Baseball draft, and then also producing players that are going to go off and get drafted. So that sounds like just a great pitch for the recruiters moving forward to continue to sign really good players and have a great program.
Eric?
I mean, it's great for the school. Obviously, these days with college sports, it's never been harder to recruit kids to come play for you because with all this transfer portal stuff and NIL and all that other stuff, it's never been harder. Back in the day when I was in school, it was about you were begging for the scholarship. Now you're begging for money. But it's good for them to manage to keep their kids and be able to bring that talent into the school, especially given the fact that the transfer portal is already there. Because the first minute they're hitting 400 or something like that, I can guarantee you they're going to be getting calls from bigger schools to come and play for them. But good for USF for getting those kinds of kids who are committed to the program, and it's clearly working out for them because they're able to get drafted to potentially play Major League Baseball.
Rob?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's a great program, and to have all those players drafted by Major League Baseball, like Eric said, it is harder to recruit these kids now because you're right. They don't want the scholarships. They want the money. They want to get paid now. So kudos, definitely. It's a good thing.
Candy?
So the selections mark the milestone. Total number of players drafted from USF to 134. The other thing that also happened is, additionally, 2 USF commits were drafted directly out of high school and are expected to forego their college careers. What does that mean? It means that USF is attracting top talent and can find it and attracts them to their school. Now, will they ultimately play for USF? Those 2 probably not. But that says a lot about your program. If you can draft and get in and have high school players that don't even end up going to your school, that means you're recognizing the talent that's out there and that major league teams are recognizing you for your recognition of the talent.
Well, also, go ahead, Rob. Oh, you already commented?
Yeah, I already answered you.
All right, so here's what I'm going to say. Wade Boggs, Tampa product out there. Daryl Strawberry, Doc Gooden. Tampa area is known for a lot of their greatness in baseball.
Tino Martinez.
And him too. All right, well, the list goes on, but you get the drill. All right, time to talk about some no-hitters because I got some good ones here. One of them, we're going to go back to June 23rd, 1917, people. Ready for this? Get ready. Babe Ruth punches an umpire. Then his replacement, Ernie Shore, throws a perfect game at Fenway Park on the mound for the Red Sox. And actually, what happened was Ruth started by throwing 4 balls, 2 of which he thought were strikes. Skip, the no-hitter that wasn't, okay, for Babe Ruth. And I actually led off with a promo on my social media about referring to the Armando Galarraga with this in mind. So, all right, Skip, what are your thoughts about Babe Ruth blasting 6 pitches and Ernie Short getting everything?
Yeah, I love it. I think that probably the most entertaining part about that game was not the pitching after Babe Ruth, but the big swing that Babe Ruth took. That might have been his best swing of his career, to get to punch an umpire in the face.
Good. Oh, Callaway, you are getting great, man. I love that. God, that's a good comeback. All right, well, Rob, you were laughing. Go ahead. Why don't you pick this one up?
Yeah, I agree with Hickey. That must have been some sight to see the Sultan of Swing take a swing and hit an umpire right in the face.
Yeah, that was good. Icorn?
Well, the men in blue really got the black and blue on that one. It sounds like, well, hey, I got to have one joke a night, right?
Well, that one's actually pretty good. Go ahead.
And I know it was just accidental, but I didn't give my 2 cents on your bowls, and that's okay, Scott. All I was going to add to that discussion was the congrats to USF. Obviously, 31-25 this season. They won 2 games in the postseason in the conference tournament, and kudos, as my friend Candy uses. I love that saying, by the way. Kudos to USF and the Bulls baseball team. But getting back to this one, yeah, that's that. I don't have much more to add than that corny joke of mine.
No, actually, your corny joke was good, and I'm glad you got your 2 cents on USF. That's okay, George.
Thanks. Thank you.
Anytime you have memory issues like I'm having them every now and then, it does happen.
That's all right, brother.
And for anybody that has Alzheimer's, okay, it sucks. We'll leave it at that. So, all right, who else have I forgotten on this one, Eric?
Well, I mean, Babe Ruth wasn't exactly a role model during his career, but because Babe, it wouldn't be the last time Babe Ruth was running around attacking people. It's incredible because who knows what would have happened had Babe Ruth actually started that game. Maybe the perfect game happens, maybe it doesn't, but it's still incredible how his replacement comes in there and makes history.
Anybody else haven't spoken on this?
I haven't.
Go ahead.
Ruth was ejected and fined $100 and suspended 10 games. Wow.
That's a lot back then.
That was a lot back, like $100. I think about that. Like now, $100 is a slap in the wrist. I mean, nothing to these guys. But back then, $100 was a lot, and 10 games. Yep. Like that's a pretty sizable penalty there. But I mean, he was warned. He argued with them over balls and strikes, was warned by the umpire, and then threatened to punch him before following through with a swing that struck the umpire behind the ear.
Well, you know what, Candy? That's a pretty good piece of research. Great stuff. Yeah. Hey,
Scott, I got an interesting thing to say about this.
Go ahead.
Then, Babe Ruth, was he the first $1 million player? He was making more than I was making managing the Mets, and every time I got kicked out, I got fined $1,500. So I would have loved to have got fined $100. I thought that this doesn't add up. 80 years later, I don't understand what's going on.
Inflation, Skip. Inflation.
Skip.
I love refund. My salary wasn't inflated like his.
Neither is mine.
Great stuff, Skip. I love that. Oh, anytime you can incorporate a nugget like that, go ahead and do it. I love it. Great stuff.
Although, give the Babe credit though. He was at least a man of his word, threatening the umpire to punch him, and he did.
All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the Toronto Blue Jays, shall we? They actually moved Jose Barrios to the bullpen, and get this, okay? Paxton Schultz is recalled from AAA. Now he's on IL due to early elbow inflammation. Let's talk about these series of transactions. Skip about Jose Barrios, and then we'll talk about the Paxton Schultz. Skip.
Yeah, I think a lot of time and a lot of meetings probably went into this for the Toronto Blue Jays. They're obviously going to do the best they can to win a World Series. And I know Jose Barrios has pitched in relief in the playoffs before, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So maybe he can, add a little bit to their bullpen. I love his stuff. I've always liked his stuff. I got to see him as a rookie there in Minnesota. Was like, wow, this guy can really pitch, and maybe it'll bolster their bullpen a little bit. And I'm sure they're making the right move there and doing what's best for the team.
Eric.
I mean, obviously it's a tough. Toronto's already going into the postseason pretty short-handed with pitching, though. They're going to have to pray, though, that their bats are alive and well, though, because also their bullpen is pretty shaky, particularly at the closing position with Jeff Hoffman. But Barrios' experience, he's done a multitude of things in this league. He's pitched in the postseason before. I know that he's pitched for Toronto during their postseason as well. So this is nothing new to him. I mean, eventually once you're in the league a while, you kind of just get used to doing what you got to do. I mean, it's becoming more and more common to see starting pitchers kind of become long men in the postseason, given the fact that obviously the teams aren't going to be able to carry all their starting pitchers and have them start games in a short series. So they're going to remove their liabilities in the bullpen and kind of use their mid to back end starters in the bullpen, because they can go out there and eat innings and save some relievers for when it really matters. So, but Toronto's in trouble pitching wise, though, and I know obviously I'm sure Skip can probably attest to this. There's a lot of conversation happening when it comes to making a move between the front office, coaching staff, and managers, and everybody wants to get their 2 cents in there. And so, it's obviously Toronto's trying to piece together a pitching staff, but man, when you go into the postseason with a pieced together pitching staff, you are in trouble. And I just don't see it working out well for Toronto, because it's not something that they've been used to all year. And the one thing you want is you kind of want people to know their roles at this point in the year. If you're adjusting them to a new role, though, it doesn't always work out. I'm not saying it won't for Toronto, but it generally doesn't, because I've seen this movie many times over with teams who are kind of having to piece things together.
Rob.
Yeah, sometimes, like Eric said, they have to piece things together. Things are, it's so much. The postseason is so different because of all these added games. It's like you used to look forward to the playoffs and the pitching matchups, right, where the starters are going to last throughout the game, and now they have to worry about starters who can't go more than 4 or 5 innings, and they got to piece things together. And they even have piggybacking in the playoffs. So things are so different than what we're used to.
Candy.
Like Rob was just saying, once you get to the playoffs, you do whatever you can to get through the playoffs and on to the next round. So you're going to put your best man forward. I remember, this is going to date, but I remember people putting relievers in back-to-back games. You do whatever you need to get on to that next series. So does it surprise me? None of it surprises me, because, like I said, if you don't win the series, you're out. So you're going to do whatever you can to win that series.
Anybody that haven't called on yet?
George.
Okay.
Go ahead, George.
My 2 cents is Barrios is not as effective as he used to be. He wasn't the greatest of pitchers in years gone by, but he was in double-digit wins most of the time for the Minnesota Twins and the Toronto Blue Jays. This has been an off year, as we talked about, as everybody talked about. I mean, the kid is 9-5 with a 4.17 ERA. But in the playoffs, you do have these situational pitching changes, as we know, Skip knows all too well. Guys have to be ready. Bullpen, starters, it's a limited opportunity, especially these early couple of rounds, man. Best out of 3 and best out of 5. Toronto doesn't have a best out of 3. We know that. They got to buy. But the fact of the matter is this guy does have experience pitching. There are situations where putting him in that game, that playoff game, could prove advantageous. We just don't know yet, but give him a chance. Give him a chance. Is he as good as he was years ago? Heck no. But hey, they made the postseason. The Jays, they're going to give him a good look, see what he can do.
Well, all I'll say about it is the more pitching depth you have, the better you are off the arc. If you can shore up that bullpen, more power to him. We'll see how that plays out. All right, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go back to our Nolan Ryan and Ichiro Suzuki stats of the week. Nolan Ryan's record of 7 no-hitters gives him 3 more than the next. The closest pitcher is Sandy Koufax, who had 4. Back to no-hitters, Skip. Nolan Ryan, what are your thoughts about Nolan Ryan?
Yeah, 7 no-hitters is just unheard of, and then if you dig a little bit deeper and you talk about the 1-hitters and the 2-hitters, he leads in all those categories too. But it was just a beast on the mound and formidable, just, pitcher out there, just not allowing many hits and striking out the world. So, but what a great pitcher during that era, and to be able to get to watch him throughout his career was a special thing for me, because he was my baseball hero.
Yeah, he's a lot of people's baseball hero. I'm glad he got a lot of votes there. Rob?
Do you know what these Nolan Ryan things do to me?
What?
They drive me crazy. Okay, because
Good, then I'll keep bringing them on every week to drive you crazy.
Remember, I have to, relive this trade for Jim Fregosi over and over. Could you imagine what the New York Mets pitching staffs would have been like if they just waited until he developed and got control? Oh boy, what could have been?
Don't worry, I have a lot more what could have been in the next several weeks, but this is the latest what could have been up your list. All right, well, go ahead, Eric.
Well, I was gonna say though, the Mets are a living definition of what could have been.
That was good.
I mean, it's obviously, all right, that's the greatest pitcher of all time. I mean, George Bush had a poster of him in the Oval Office that was over his head. I'm sure he sat in the Oval Office each day hoping that he would come in, which I'm sure George would have gladly had him in. But yeah, Noah Ryan is just, unbelievable. 7 no-hitters. You're not gonna, no one's matching that. It's especially pitchers these days when they after 190-ish, 90 or 100 or so pitches, they're taking him out of the ball game. So that's not getting equal. I mean, Nolan Ryan just, he's probably as close to Cy Young as we'll actually get, which is crazy to think how he never won the award, even though the guy was just an unbelievable hurler. But he's probably as close to that type of pitcher of that time. Everybody considers Cy Young one of the early greats. There's a reason the award's named after him. He's probably as close to that guy as you're getting.
Who's next? Raise hands. Okay.
Sure.
Candy?
Nolan Ryan pitched for. So one thing you're gonna say is no one's ever gonna have 7 no-hitters again. No one's ever gonna pitch for 27 years career. There's no one that's gonna have that kind of a career. Ironically, he never pitched a perfect game, nor did he ever win a Cy Young award, and both are attributed because he also walked a lot. So yes, he was a good pitcher, had a lot of strikeouts, but he also did walk some people.
Good. George?
Yeah, Nolan Ryan is just fantastic. Those numbers are incredible. To think at his age, how many no-hitters he threw, like you said, Scott, just incredible. I mean, like Randy Johnson and even our friend, you mentioned Sandy Koufax. I mean, nobody can come close to him in those total no-hit categories. And it was just an unbelievable career for him. And it is odd that he never won the Cy Young. I agree with you on that one. But Nolan Express, off and running. Boy, what a great career. Great pitcher. Tough as nails.
Well, more to come on Nolan Ryan, and now we'll talk about Ichiro Suzuki. Got to go one with the other. Ichiro collected 7 plus 20 game hitting streaks during his career, including a career high 27 game hitting streak 2009. Skip. No
You
Skip.
know, with Ichiro, that's not surprising. He had so many hits throughout his career, all of the 200 plus hit years in a row. Just an amazing hitter. His ability to put the bat on the ball was next to none, really, throughout his career. So 20 game hitting streak for him was very common, and what another great feat by another wonderful player that we all got to see in our era. We talk about all these feats about a lot of these players, and most of them we got to see. So I'm going to say that we lived in the best baseball era ever, and I don't think there'll be another era like it.
And Eric?
I mean, Ichiro. I mean, that's the best. You could probably argue the best all-around player of my generation too. I mean, the guy could do literally anything on the baseball field. He could hit. I mean, he could hit a home run every now and then, but he probably could have, but he just chose not to, at least in his words. He's just Ichiro's unbelievable. He's a Hall of Famer. There's a reason for it. Should have been a unanimous Hall of Famer, but again, he is probably the best all-around player of my generation. And to Mickey's point, though, that generation of baseball, I don't think we're getting ever again. I mean, there was just too much talent during that time. I don't think we're ever going to have anything that equals that, because every team in baseball at that point in time had a star. It was star-laden league. You could run around to every team, including the worst teams of the worst teams, and they would inevitably have a star.
George?
Yeah, each row is fantastic. And as you mentioned, and we have mentioned in previous shows, some knucklehead kept him from getting 100%. He ended up with 99.7% of the voting in his first year. But this guy, when you look at it, like we talked about before, he was in that Nippon Professional League in Japan before he came to Major League Baseball, 4,367 total hits. I mean, this guy was just so impactful in both Japan, their league, and of course MLB. And his consistency is just over the top. What a great guy! What a great attraction for fans in America, the Asian Americans, if you will, who just love to come out to Yankee Stadium and Comerica Park or wherever they filled up to see this guy, because he definitely was one of a kind. Ichiro. It just boggles my mind how much this man did and contributed to baseball.
Candy?
He is largely considered one of the greatest contact hitters and leadoff hitters as well as a defensive outfielder in baseball history. He played with the Seattle Yankees, the Marlins. Yes, he played over in Japan as well. Just, if you're going to have an all-time baseball team, he's going to be on your list, and you're going to put him as your leadoff hitter because that's how many hits he wants, and that's where you want to put him because that's how you want to start your games. So, great hitter.
Rob?
Yeah, well, what else could I say? He had a great career in Japan, then he comes over here and he has an even better career. He's just amazing, and like everyone else said, and I always said, one vote, really? Come on, ridiculous.
It is. Well, that's why I have Ichiro on every week, because we can provide you with a new nugget. All right, we got to make Rob feel somewhat at home with the show. So we're going to do that by bringing in our Mets stuff, and then we're going to end the show with the Yankees on a flurry. Well, here we go, Mickey, get ready. One of the smartest things I think that Pete Alonso did was he actually went out there and declined an invite to the Home Run Derby this year. We know that his stats are pretty good. We'll get into more of that next year. So what are your thoughts about, Rob, that Pete Alonso declining that invite for the home run derby.
I love that. I talked to Chris on the show before the All-Star game, and I said I hope Alonso declines that because it really did something to his swing the past couple of times he was in it. So I was very happy that he declined it. He won it twice. That was, that's enough.
Right.
We needed him to keep his swing the way he was going because he had the great, this season. And I don't blame him for opting out, and I don't even blame him for saying it yesterday after the game.
Right.
We knew he's going to opt out, so I'm glad that he declined.
Candy?
Yeah, I mean, it comes a point in your life where you might have done that, done this, done that, and you want to give other guys a shot, to be in the home run hitting contest. And there's something to be said about a little bit of rest and not trying to strive and have that.
Well,
Let's face it, you're hitting how many times during that home run hitting contest?
Right.
So kudos to him.
George?
Yeah, I think I echo those comments. Several times, a lot of the big sluggers have just backed off. And I think after a certain time, either in your career or in your situation, where you said, like Andy said, you need that time off. And the fact of the matter is, yeah, there's a prize associated with that. There's extra money for you. A lot of these guys don't need extra money, and they certainly don't want to hurt their team's chances in the second half of the season. I think that the home run derby is still fun, but it's not as fun as it used to be because a lot of the big names are staying out, and I can't blame him at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is something that I had to deal with the media. It was such a big deal his rookie season. Does he participate in the home run derby? And I was actually on the Mike Francesa show while
Really?
right before the home run derby, and Pete had opted in, and it was such a big thing in the New York media at the time, and I was all for it at that time. And you know what? Pete went out there and won it, and I think he tripled his salary for the year because he won twice as much in the home run derby than he was making his rookie season. But let's make no mistake about it. I love Pete Alonso so very much. I respect him so much. The reason he did not participate this year is because we all know what's at stake for Pete Alonso going into this offseason. He wanted to focus on his numbers in the season. He could care less. He had won a couple of home run derbies. He's been there, done that. His focus is on what's going to happen this offseason with his contract.
Makes sense. Eric?
I mean, it wasn't surprised that he declined to do it. I thought with the contract coming up and stuff, he wants to be at his best. Obviously, he had a fantastic year. This is probably I've given Pete Alonso a lot of crap over the years, but this year he kind of proved me wrong because I thought he was a player going downhill. But again, it's good for players to participate in those kinds of events when they're not making a whole lot of money because they're able to kind of they're able to make some more because by when Pete Alonso first did it, you're not making any the first two times you did it, you're not making any money yet, and but you win two of them. Eventually, it's just okay. Same old thing over and over again. But I'll disagree with Rob. I did have a problem with Pete Alonso announcing he was opting out of his contract. I had a problem with the timing of it because the Mets just lost in devastating fashion. There's no bones about it. And what Pete Alonso did was the equivalent of you walking home after a bad day at work and a car and it's raining and a car goes past you and puts a bunch and goes into a puddle and the water splashes on you, making your day worse. That is the equivalent of that. I had a problem when Juan Soto was messing around with that right after the World Series. But again, Pete Alonso, obviously it was no surprise he opted out. I just had a problem with the timing of when he did it because, I mean, as much as I like to kick around the Mets all the time, I don't want them to have. I don't need them to have a car splash a puddle on them more than they already have. They already got gut wrenched and then they got kicked. That's just a bad day all around.
All right, well, we're going to do the rest of the show. We're going rapid fire. I repeat, rapid fire. We're going to get through everything. We'll stay on the Mets team. The New York Mets at one point were 0-62 in games that they trailed after the eighth inning. Yeah, guess what? That number's been updated to 0-67. That is the final number. Bad look, Rob.
Bad. I don't even know how to answer this question because all year it's so frustrating as a Met fan that they did not come back and win a game that they were behind in the eighth inning. Think about that. When has that ever happened? It was horrible. I don't know. It was just horrible compared to last year when they had that magic, right? And they kept winning games in the ninth inning or extra innings. Horrible. I can't even answer that question because it's still hard for me to believe.
Hard for me to believe. That's why I put it on the show. I've never seen anything like this until this team pulled it off. Candy?
It is hard to believe, but at the same time, you pay both teams to play and to try and stop the other team. So it just means that you didn't have good luck going past the eighth inning, but the other stretch of it, the other thought of it is the teams you played maybe knew that and could play on, in their minds and stuff like that. And I think it gets to a team, and sometimes it becomes a mental thing. And once it's mentally in your head, you just can't get it out of your head. So I think that probably played into it as well.
George?
Yeah, it's a frightening, it's a despicable statistic. I don't know what more I could say. I mean, this is not something that any team with the kind of talent and the lineup that the Mets have, this is just inexcusable. I'm sorry, there's no other way around it. And yes, it is frightening, but at the same time, it's bad baseball. Let's face the fact. It's bad that you cannot mount the comeback. You cannot, as a team, win some of these games when you're supposed to.
Skip?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with George. That's just a bad look all around. It's a bad look on the players. It's a bad look on the coaching staff. What was going on? Were they just giving up? It's almost, for that stat to be that, it's almost like, oh, well, we're behind. It's okay. We'll win tomorrow kind of attitude. And that's just not what good baseball teams do. Good baseball teams play to the last out and always have a chance to come back. And it's just a bad look overall. That's an internal thing that needs to be, squashed immediately. Right when you start seeing they're 0 for 10, you have to start, really talking about that. That is a crazy stat to me.
Yeah, that's why I put it on here. Okay, because it is hard to believe from everybody, especially you, because you sat in the manager chair. Go ahead, Eric.
Oh boy, there's a lot of things you could say about the Mets epic. I wouldn't call it a collapse. I call it an epic bleed out. And apologies to Rob because I'm going to be throwing a lot of things at the Mets more than the amount of bullpen pitchers they used by the fourth inning. This is just unacceptable for a $339 million payroll team. The Brewers were incredible. In comparison, the Brewers were incredible late in the game this year. But you have an all-star caliber lineup. You have the $765 million man that you thought would take you over the top. Here's the thing, what it came down to. The Mets just could not handle having the target on their back. Last year, expectations were relatively tempered. No one was really expecting a whole lot out of them. That's part of the reason why why they were a compelling story last year, going all the way to the NLCS. But man, how do you with that lineup not at least have one? You got some serious power in that lineup. It's just unacceptable. It's embarrassing. I wonder what Mike Francesco reacted to this because I really want to hear from him.
I don't have that miracle left in my pocket. When I find out, I will. All right. Well, the bottom line is that's why they're out of the playoffs. I'll tell you, not all gloom and doom in New York, though. Once upon a time, there were the Brooklyn Dodgers. Guess what? You had the Brooklyn Cyclones. The Brooklyn Cyclones won their first South Atlantic League title. Rob, you have to feel a little bit good about the Cyclones. A little bit something to look forward to the future.
Yeah, they're a fun team, and let me tell you, that stadium in Coney Island, because I've been to quite a few Cyclone games. Beautiful stadium right by the boardwalk. The kids, it's fun to go to those minor league games sometimes. They make it fun, and it's great to watch the young kids play their hearts out. And congratulations to the Cyclones.
Candy.
Kudos to like Rob said, minor league baseball is about kids wanting to get to the next level and playing hard. A lot of times there's like giveaways, there's more promotional, there's more interaction with the fans and stuff like that. I remember going up to Daytona Beach. We've gone, Scott, a couple times to see the Tortugas. They had an entertainer that was out there that was talking in the stands and getting, this the fans more involved, more entertained, because that's what people want. They want to be entertained these days. So, but kudos to the Cyclones.
George.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the Brooklyn Cyclones, I like that. That's a good team name. I like that. And hats off. I mean, they have done a good job, obviously, in the South Atlantic League, and it's a fun thing. And minor league baseball. Say what you want about it, and I know that Scott and Candy and Skip, all you guys, have been to a lot of minor league games. And these kids are trying their best. They're trying to make these rosters. They're trying to move up to the next level. And it's a great story when you see that kind of stuff. So I'm happy for the Cyclones. Yes, indeed.
All right, Skip. Let's get your take on the Brooklyn Cyclones, and then when we get done with this segment, we're going to end it with the New York Yankees. Skip, let's talk about the Cyclones.
Yeah, they lived up to their name in the playoffs, right? They did a great job. The one thing about minor league baseball is, to me, when I was playing in it, there was a lot of pride in winning. And in the last 10 years or so, it's really gotten to more, it's all about development. It's all about development. Well, you still have to develop winners. Right? In this little stretch that they had, it gave them that winning attitude that you have to go and succeed in the big leagues. So I'm proud of these young players. Minor league baseball is amazing. It's so fun to be a part of, and they got a little bit more development because they had such a great showing in the playoff.
I'll say this before I turn over Eric. My first thing was with the Fort Lauderdale Yankees. Some Merrill once told me winning and developing prospects goes hand in hand. Good point, Skip. All right, Eric, last word on this, and keep in mind, we're going to go rapid fire. We'll have like 5 to 6 minutes. Let's talk about the Yankees, but it's enough for what we have. Eric?
Well, it's minor league baseball is incredible. That's how I first started getting into baseball, was minor league baseball, where I was fortunate enough with my local team to be able to see a very young Miguel Cabrera, Adrian Gonzalez. I saw Clayton Kershaw pitch when he was just 20 years old. It's incredible. I even saw in North Carolina. I even saw Francisco Lindor when he was 18 years old. But it's incredible. It's great. It's significantly cheaper. Like, everything about it's significantly cheaper. It's like, you're not paying nearly as much as you would be for a major league game, and you still have a good time. If not, the product can be more compelling at times.
Yeah, just a little footnote on Clayton Kershaw before we go to the Yankees. He has been left off the Dodgers postseason roster for at least the opening round. We'll see if he goes on later. We'll probably talk about that more on the Saturday show, but I'm glad you brought up him. So, yeah, he has been left off the initial roster for this week anyways. All right, final topics of the night. We shift over to the Yankees rapid fire. The New York Yankees have 33 consecutive winning seasons. Rob, how impressed are you with that number?
As much as I hate to admit it, it's impressive, right? It's impressive. But listen, I'm from New York. You either like the Mets or the Yankees. I'm a Met fan. Can't stand the Yankees, but it's impressive.
All right, you know what? I'm going to combine the Yankee topics, okay? Because there are two of them, Rob. So here we'll do. Should the Yankees bench Anthony Volpe for the playoffs?
I think they did bench him for game one. That's what I heard. Should they? I don't know if they should bench him for the whole playoffs. I mean, he's going to get in at some point, but I don't think he's starting tomorrow.
Okay, Candy.
I'm going to say, do I think they should bench him? No, I don't think they should bench him. Do I think it's impressive 33 consecutive years? Anytime you do something that long consecutively, it's going to be impressive. Yes. Whether you're a Yankees fan or not, that's impressive.
Eric.
It's never been harder nowadays to constantly, win because of free agency, also trades, the way draft picks are dispersed, also, players, the attrition of players. It's hard to do. Even the best teams in baseball, struggle to do it. Not even the Dodgers have been able to do that. But it's incredible what they've done, especially with having different managers, different general managers. I mean, the last time they had a losing year was I think the early '90s, which was the beginning of Buck Showalter when he was turning that team around. But it's incredible what they've been able to do. They've been in the postseason for the most part, and they always have a chance to win it. Granted, they're arguably one of the richer teams in baseball, so they have that kind of working for them as well. Also, luxury tax factors in, but it's incredible what they've been able to do and have, being able to finish above 500 and at least have a chance at a championship every single year. And as far as benching Anthony Volpe goes, for the love of God, Aaron Boone, please end that sideshow immediately. It's burning my eyes. I'd rather root for the New York Mets than watch Anthony Volpe out on the field. He is a liability. He can't hit and he can't field. And at this point, you might as well bring someone in to make him earn his job in Tampa next year because God, he's been awful. I've given him the benefit of the doubt, and now I am finished. And I am done. You put Caballero in there, he'll give you a lot more than Volpe gets because, to be truthful, whenever a ground ball is hit to him, it's very, very scary because you don't know where that ball is going to go.
Okay, Skip. Two topics here. The 33 straight, which is unbelievable.
Yeah, the Yankees are the best franchise. Let's just be honest. They're the best franchise in the history of baseball. 33 winning seasons straight. That's amazing. Yeah. There's a lore about the Yankees, even when you're a major league coach or a major league player. When you go to play the Yankees, the Yankees are coming to town, or you're going into Yankee Stadium, and you have your hands full. That's just fact. You look on the schedule and we're playing the Yankees at this point in the season, and it's just it's intimidating to a degree. That's just how it is, and that's how it always will be. As far as Volpe, hey, look, you gotta bench the guy. You gotta play baseball to win. It's not, let's give him a chance because he's a great prospect and we'll stick with him. No, bench him, play the best defender over at third. You're not getting offensive output anyway. Pitching and defense are going to win you this championship if you're going to win one.
Excellent points. That's the reason why I have a manager on air, because of Callaway. Been there, done that. Nobody knows the game as well as he does. Why do you think he does? Why do you think he's going to get an opportunity for like a minute to talk about his teaching lessons? He will in a moment after George Eichmann gets done. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that strikes me is the fact that, yes, 25 in a row playoff appearances. They did get 5 World Series titles, but unfortunately, and I'm not trying to throw cold water on this subject, but unfortunately for Yankee fans, the 5 World Series are not enough because every season that they compete, every season that they make the postseason, the Yankees are expected to win. It's a culture. It's a remarkable streak. Don't get me wrong, but what have you done for me lately? Unfortunately, always hangs over the Yankees that fall a wee bit short. But who knows? Maybe this will be their year. I don't know. But yes, I'm happy for them. And it's a great tribute
As for Volpe, George, real quick, you got 30 seconds to state your case.
Volpe, I don't know. I think he should be on the roster. Let's see what goes on. I know some of these decisions. I don't like the Kershaw decision either, but Volpe, yeah, I would put him back in on the active roster.
I will all say about the top pick is 33 is my lucky number. Glad that the Yankees hit the 33 number. My expert said the talking on Volpe. We'll leave it at that. All right, Candy, let's. Did you want to get your 2 cents, or have you already done it?
I already did.
Okay, good. And give us the station break real quick. We'll wrap it up, and then the skipper's going to talk about his pitching lessons, and then we'll call it a night. Thanks, Skip, for hanging out with us. Glad that you're on tonight. We got to a lot of good topics, and I'm glad that you were able to come on the audio version your way. Okay, Candy, real quick, rapid fire on the finish.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth, and the foreword was written by George Eichhorn. It talks about their 40-plus years in the media business and how it has evolved and changed. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there is a plethora of great content, so go check it out. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. If you see the red subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner, click it, like, and share us, and then turn on the notifications so you're notified every time we go live. If you want to advertise, call Scott, 954-304-4941, and if you want to be a guest or have topic ideas, you can email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Back to you, Scott.
All right, quick exits. Rob, let everybody know they get a hold of you.
Yep, NYMLB talk. We're doing playoff, postseason shows throughout the whole postseason.
Skip, give us an overview of how things are going with your lessons.
Yeah, lessons are going great. You know, if anybody wants lessons out there, I'm going to start doing virtual lessons as well. So just shoot me an email at mcalloway2433@gmail.com. I'd love to help your kid out and see if we can't get him into the big leagues.
Great stuff. You can see Mickey Callaway on Talking Baseball Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time. All right, Eichhorn, real quick.
All righty, you can find me at the South Florida Tribune website under the contributors section. And at the end of my columns, there's always a link to my book, which is Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. And as Scott mentioned earlier, we lost a giant in Detroit, Mr. Ray Lane, 95 years old. Farewell and rest in peace, Ray. You can reach me. The quickest way is gikern@yahoo.com. Thanks.
All right, Eric, you get the final.
You can follow me on my X account at Sports Team News, where I'm tweeting about all things baseball, and you can check out my blog at bellyupsports.com, where I write about all things baseball. If you think I don't like your team, I probably don't.
Great stuff. All right, that does it for us on this edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. Get ready for the playoffs going forward. And I have some great guests lined up as well. We'll keep you posted as we get closer into it. So on behalf of Rob Moroscott, New York MLB Talk, they're a great collaborator with us. Glad to have them on the team. Candy Ebling, George Eichhorn, and of course my manager, Mickey Callaway. Mickey and I do a lot of projects together, and Mr. Callaway is doing an unbelievable job with the way he's accepting the coaching. We have more things ahead. And Eric Katz, my name is Scott Morganroth, Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next Monday night. And of course, Saturday. We have a date on Saturday, right, Skip?
That's right. We'll be there.
You got it. All right. Good night, everybody. And hope you enjoyed the show. And let's get ready for the postseason. We've all been waiting for it. Great. Take care.